there's a multitude of like areas that we can kind of touch on here. One, and I think this is applicable whether you want to go buy like, 1, 2, 10, 20 single family properties, or if you want to just leap right into passive investing. But one is understanding like your goals. So let me back this up. I'm making one assumption here that if you're here, you're listening to this, that you kind of believe that real estate is actually an asset class that you can invest in and maybe make money in. Okay. So that's number one. Do you believe in real estate? Number two, what are your goals? Do you need cash flow? Do you need equity? Do you need diversification? Do you need tax benefits? Do you need all of that? And really understanding that wealth generation occurs on 4 main pillars. One, investing in assets that have capital preservation, that deliver cash flow. Now, I know I talk to a lot of people in the tech industry that are self-employed, that, doctors, lawyers, they're like, oh, I don't need the cash flow now. Really? For one, the cash flow on the property tells me that the property has an element of stabilization in this market. I'm de-risking my position. Now, you don't have to consume the cash flow, just harvest it and continue to build up for your next down payment or your next investment amount. 3, does it provide some sort of element of appreciation? Now, this could be, a lot of people right now are super happy about their asset prices soaring if they already have a portfolio or a primary house. That's market appreciation. That's kind of icing on the cake. There's not a whole lot you can do to control that. But I also look at the other types of appreciation, forced appreciation and the equity position that you can gain by a tenant pay down on the loan. So I look for assets that have at least 2, or if not all 3 of those components to them on the appreciation side. And then 4th, the tax benefits. I look for ways to invest in assets that have, the ability to take depreciation. And right now we have a beautiful gift right now with accelerated depreciation by, where we can complete a cost segregation analysis on a property. If the property is larger, you get more of a benefit from that. But the cost segs are coming down. So you can do that on a single family property if you'd like. Doesn't work so well, just like the $80, $100, $900, $100,000 properties, gets cost benefit there. And then I also like, for goals, can you use leverage, right? That can amplify your returns. And then also investing in assets that have an inflation hedge. Okay. So there's 4 main pillars I look for, 2 kind of bonus things. And, really sit and think about that. How do those pillars play into your investing goals? And then past that, understand what your risk tolerance is and what your horizon is. Because we all have different seasons of life. Like, in my 20s, I was swinging for the fences because I had time on my side potentially to make up that deficit. Getting closer, right now we're still in an accumulation build on our wealth. But, when I approach closer to, more traditional retirement age, I have like less time to make up on any mistakes. I'm going to I'm not going to do so many of the development deals. I might tick down to, or not even down, but to the other side of the pendulum where I'm doing more stabilized assets. Personally, I like the middle of the road. I like, a little bit of value add, but I don't like huge amounts of business plan risk. It goes on my single family properties, my small multi, and even on my larger deals. And then your timeline horizon. Okay. You have to understand how long you can have your money locked up for. And all these things kind of go into play. So those are things, that's one thing that I encourage investors, if you're getting into this, to really kind of think about, even if you just took a day to think about all these things and how they intermix into your portfolio, into your goals, that thinking is going to set you up for greater success.
Love it. Great insights right there. You talked about really as you are embarking on this journey and focusing on your education, really wrap your head around your goals. And you said a couple of things, right? So kind of working a little bit backwards here. You talked about your risk tolerance and your time horizon. Where are you at? How many years do you have before you actually want to retire, before you want to walk away from maybe that corporate job? How much time do you have? Understand that, because that will influence the types of investments you should be considering. Also, when you look for deals, understand the different ways real estate can be of value. There's cash flow first and foremost. There's cash preservation. You look for appreciation. We talked about the depreciation potential, right? Being able to do a cost segregation analysis, which is essentially a fancy engineering way of looking at a building, breaking it down into its parts, and accelerating the time frame of when some of those parts are going to go bad, even if they don't actually go bad. But the way the tax laws work, they say, hey, certain things go bad, or, they have a use of life shorter than other things. So you can use this study and you can essentially reduce your tax liability by taking this study. So again, those costs are going down. It's something that you should at least learn more about and figure out if it's something that can help you with your tax strategy. So again, why are you investing? Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking to reduce your taxes? Are you looking for something that can fight inflation? Take these things into consideration, and then that can give you a sense of the types of assets you should be looking into. So appreciate you sharing that, Whitney. And I think that's a really great place to start. One thing that jumped out to me when you were talking about your story is just, at some point you all hit that inflection point where you were able to quit your jobs and go full time. If I'm reading into what you were saying, you were doing pretty well financially in your job. It sounds like your husband's probably doing pretty well in his job as well. And for many listeners and many investors who are making good money with their W-2 job, those golden handcuffs are what stops them from maybe pursuing their dream of real estate investing more. I know some people have been able to do that with passive investing, but talk to us a little bit more about ways that our investors can break these golden handcuffs and actually get what they want out of life.
Yeah. So just I want to make sure that, we clarify one point. We both still work. Okay. Now, my husband, there's a reason to this. Okay. And I think I just want to, when people are starting to realize, again, think about that timeline horizon. When do I want to exit out of my professional career? You have to start doing a couple different things. Well, sometimes the math, right? Like, what will it take? And there's different levels of different milestones along this journey. One is just like getting enough income coming in to, cover your hard expenses, like the things that just, keep the food on the table, the lights on, and the heat on, right? That's it. So financial security. So that can be milestone number one. Milestone number two, what can start making, if you decided to kind of walk away, what would allow you to maybe experience a little bit of life, have vitality, right? And now the handcuffs are getting looser, right, as you are taking this journey. And then, financial independence. I think we hear a lot about the FIRE movement, where your income exceeds your expenses in perpetuity, right? Forever, in theory. And a lot of people shoot for that, but there's milestones along the way. So I really encourage people to start doing that math and biting off that journey in like little baby steps, because if you go right to the end milestone, you may not get started. That's hard. I see investors do that all the time. Two, you also have to start unhooking your identity from your job. I see this a lot of time with like professionals. I went through this experience myself, where, working in public health, I was like, I'm a public health professional. Like, why would I ever leave? I have a calling. Like, why would I go full-time in real estate? And then in the end, I had to think about what about my public health job did I actually love and fall in love with? And it was the education side, helping people make behavioral changes that would free them, create freedom for them. In that case, it was freedom of health, right? And choices. Here, the same thing in finance, working with people and building their real estate and helping them think through their finances. That's exactly what I'm doing here, is helping them create freedom of, money, freedom of time, freedom of location. And so that's really at the end, like what you have to start kind of piecing these things together along the journey. It's not all about the money. And then, again, it goes back to your goals. Like, think through what do you want and why do you want it? Okay. So, a lot of people will be like, I want $10,000 to be able to walk away from my job. Really? Okay. Again, this leads back into the math, but you probably don't want to walk away from your job. It's what you're lacking in your job that you don't have now. And so are you going to be miserable along that journey, or are you actually going to start changing things about your day-to-day life so you're happier along the way? So it's essentially you're doing a slow inversion to get you where you want to be, both like, from a financial standpoint, but also like a health, mental, and spiritual standpoint.
Yeah,
And then
Winnie.
why do you?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, I appreciate you taking a minute to clarify that, because I do think that many people jump to the conclusion that I need to leave this W-2 job and be completely financially free and independent and not work at all again. And part of, I'm reading into what you're saying, that may not necessarily even be the real goal, and it shouldn't be your first step. The first step may need to be, what is it about my current lifestyle that I'm unhappy with, and how do I address that? And just for me, I mean, I still work, right? I mean, this is, you can call it what you want to call it, but it's work, right? I mean, I get to control my time, but we're still working. It's not like I'm sitting on the beach and never talking to people. We're working, right? But I don't have a typical W-2 job anymore. And for me, that time flexibility, the time freedom, the ability to, be with the kids, that was what I was shooting for. So you can call that breaking the golden handcuffs, but it's also a matter of, well, how do you solve the challenges that you face in your life, getting enough income to cover your bills, or finding something else that you're either more passionate about where you can pursue that. And it sounds like that's something you are able to help a lot of people with. So I appreciate you just taking a moment to help us understand, like, first of all, it's not, okay, you need, if you need to live off of your cash flow, which is where I think most people go, it's like, all right, well, you probably need like $2 million worth of investments to really be able to live off of just cash flow. And for most people, it's going to take way too long for them to save that kind of capital up in order to just live off of it. And even if you were able to do that, what are you now going to do with your time and energy? So, maybe you could talk to us about that. Like, you're the typical investor who comes to you and they're looking to learn more. They're looking to make this transition. They want to invest. They want to change their life through real estate. What are some of the challenges that they face, and how are you helping them navigate that landscape?
Yeah. So, a lot of people that come to me, especially like at passiveinvesting.com, they're coming to me and they're like, they either need access to deals, or they're like kind of the beginning. Like they're like, I like this, I learned about you guys from like a podcast, sounded amazing. How does this thing all work? Right. And so that's where I really help them start back at the very beginning, what we've already covered. Like, what are your goals? Like, what is your risk, and what is your timeline horizon? We think through some of those questions. And then we start getting down to brass tacks, like the actual execution part. How do we start, looking at strategies, looking for operators to work with, looking at markets to invest in, and then also the deal. Now, here's the interesting thing. And I think, if you have people here, some listeners, I'm sure this will resonate with, they're in single family real estate or small multifamily real estate. All of a sudden they're like, they want to start shifting to passive real estate for, maybe they want to fire Home Depot and Lowe's and their property manager. They're just done, right? I've been there. I am there with some of my properties right now. I still have single family properties. I'm slowly unwinding that portfolio. Or maybe they're just like, I just want my time back, right? This is all great, but I see the writing on the wall. I want my time back. Or maybe they actually have a great problem, which is they get too much cash flow coming in and they can't deploy it fast enough, especially in this high asset price environment. That's where we really kind of help them, understand, like, when they might have one of these three problems. I help them, understand how passive investing can actually help solve some of these problems by helping them leverage an expert operating team that has knowledge about a larger asset class, like 300, 400, 500 unit multifamily buildings, or self-storage, or car washes. Things that, I might individually might not be able to access myself. They have the expertise behind this. They already have the track record. They've executed on it before. They have a team put together of, investor relations people, acquisition, underwriting. They already have that team all put together to go ahead and execute on that deal. They have the credit and lending They can, secure that pretty easily, and they can also access other investor money. So you can go into a larger deal together. And then also you get their time, which for me, we're circled back to like, what do you want? And that freedom, at least for me, was time. I wanted time back. That was like a huge life experience. I learned it from my parents. Unfortunately, not in a good way. I mean, my dad passed at 60 and my mom passed at age 72. And both of them, worked up into the very, very bitter end. And, the retirement isn't guaranteed. And so it's like, how can I step out now and do both, still provide value through a business, but also, again, like you, we were talking before the show, you were like, well, I got my sons outside right now, like on the bike. And I'm like, yeah, I got my 9-year-old in the other room on a computer, like for school. Like we get to spend that time with our family. And those are moments we'll never get back,
Yeah. And I think it's just really critical to your point. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And while we all hope to live as long as we want and the people around us, I think one thing that we all had to come to grips with, especially during COVID, was, hey, there are people around us that we care about who are losing their lives. And what are we doing to live our life to the fullest today to change how we're able to spend our time? A lot of people started working remotely and started to value, working remotely and being closer to family. And, it can be a little overwhelming at times. Like, all right, I think too many people in the house while I'm trying to work. But point is that I think most people have grown an appreciation for how fragile life actually can be, and that the future just isn't guaranteed to us. So if you can accelerate that time frame, or you can enjoy more of the journey along the way, it's a great way to start taking steps to live a life of purpose and a more full life in general. So I'm thinking about the listener who is managing their own properties right now. Maybe they got a few rentals, a few rehabs. They like this notion of passive investing, but giving up control seems a little too risky to them. They don't really know other people, and hey, I'm more comfortable just managing the deal myself and going down to the property. But they do realize, hey, I'm spending a ton of time. I'm spending weekends here, nights here. I'm spending a lot of energy, a lot of my own money, fixing up stuff. Talk to us about those trade-offs, and how does someone get comfortable going from being kind of active on maybe the deals in their own portfolio to a passive investor on some of these larger deals?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And passive investing isn't for everybody. And so just acknowledging that up front, right? This isn't like a hard sell, like has to be in everybody's portfolio. I fully believe in it. And my journey started, we had a property here in Colorado that we were actively managing ourselves. We had to, like we wouldn't cash flow otherwise. And I remember years ago standing, we hadn't seen my husband's friend, college friend in so long. And then we're standing in the Wisconsin Children's Museum in Milwaukee, and the kids are playing, and there's 3 little girls all running around, just adorable. And my husband's on the phone the whole time with the tenant. Something about a leaky toilet and a towel rack. I mean, I'm like, simple stuff. I'm like, that conversation should have been 10 minutes long, right? Instead, an hour and a half later, he's still on the phone. I'm like, really? He just missed this whole experience. And so control seems nice, right? Right? Because especially, I think a lot of people get into real estate because they want to take a bet on themselves, right? They're done like investing in Wall Street. They want to, start taking bets on themselves, right? And, controlling their money. It doesn't mean that you actually have to have day-to-day control and decision-making. You want to build a team around you that can take that off of you. And so now you're starting to put people in your world. So I think, for me, I had to make that progression myself. I was managing my property. Now I'm like, okay, property manager. I went through a couple bumps in the road, putting the right property managers in place on my properties. That's my outsourcing of liability and time. And now, even with property management, you get you're more involved in the decisions, but eventually you're just like, do I really have control of this asset? Probably not. The property manager does. And so for me, I started making this leap and I'm like, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to try investing within a great team, somebody that comes highly recommended. And when I did that, then I realized, oh, there's a difference between a operator, yourself, or like a property manager and a professional team. They can do so much things better, quicker, and at scale. Now, as an investor, though, if that's where I'm going to go, all passive investing, I give up my day-to-day operational control, but I trade it for control over three things: who I invest with, where I invest in, and what deal I go into. So that means that your control over those 3 points have to be very critical. You have to get really good at vetting operators, looking at the market, okay, and then also looking at the deal.
I mean, those are great points there. You said you still have control over 3 major decisions: who you invest with, where you invest, and what type of deal you invest in. As a passive investor, you still have that control. And I think the other thing, you mentioned a story about your husband on the phone about that, the water leak or the toilet issue. And my story, or my similar experience there is, we were I had a 3-unit property in Chicago, and we were turning one of the units, and I got some crazy high quote to paint them. And I was like, y'all are crazy. I ain't paying you that much money. I'm like, I'll do it myself. And I did do it myself. And it took me all day on a Saturday. And it was like the first really nice Saturday. And, my oldest son was, baby at that point. And my wife took him to the park, and she's sending me pictures. And, it's 2 in the afternoon. I've been at this property for 7 hours at this point, and literally waiting for paint to dry so I could do the next coat of paint. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, the whole point of this wasn't to save $700 on painting. It was to spend more time with my family, to enjoy life. And here I am on the weekends painting for 7 hours at that point or whatever. And it ended up being like a 9-hour job painting that entire unit. And I'm like, this is a part-time job is what I have. I don't have, it's not, I mean, it's an investment for sure, but it's an investment with a job. When you're managing it yourself, that's what you have. You have a job. You got to sit there and
you're self-employed.
You're self-employed. That's what you're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you also need to understand that so you can make the right decisions. And I think that takes us back to the goals that you talked about. If you are investing because you want more time to pursue your passions, to spend time with your family, to travel, you want financial freedom, you want these things, you want to make sure you pick a strategy that affords you those things without picking up a job. If you have the flexibility to take on more work and add a second job or do whatever to stack up, the hours and make money, and you can invest that, great. By all means, do it that way. But if you're not in that position, or you're not willing to sacrifice that, then choose a strategy that's not flipping, that's not being a landlord, that allows you to get what you want out of investing in real estate without the hassles and headaches of being a flipper or a landlord. Whitney, for investors who want to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yes. Before I give my contact information, I would just want to, you just brought up a story and I would love to tell it. We just took a trip to California, and I had got, before we left on the trip, one of my tenants needed a washer, and they were like, it's going to be $1,200 or $1,300 to install this washer. I'm like, no way. I'm calling Home Depot. It's $400. Even now, even knowing what I know, I still get triggered, right? So even when you move and you decide to move completely into passive investing, if you still hold active, real estate assets, I'm sure there's going to be a pressure point where you get triggered. And that was my trigger. I'm like, no way. I'm just going to buy it at Home Depot and I'll have it delivered and they'll haul it away. It'll all be good. So this washer is the bane of my existence. Okay. It's taken 7 weeks to get, the first one got installed incorrectly. The second one was a dud. And then now we're on the third one that gets installed tomorrow. But we're on this 10-day trip, and I'm doing all this work. What it ended up saving me monetarily, maybe $600, like you said. I've probably spent more than that in my time. I just had 5 assets, passive assets, going through a 1031 exchange. You want to know how much money I made on that? $95,000.
Yeah.
That email took me all of 30 minutes to the initial email was like, do you want to do a 1031? It was yes. It was 3 seconds. And then the next one like to fill out all the paperwork was like another 30 minutes. So, your time becomes worth something. And just like hearing you describe that, I encourage everybody here, go back and read the cash flow quadrant, because if you're managing your real estate yourself, you're in the S quadrant. You might not be getting the highest taxed income, but you're self-employed. The true freedom is when you get over to the I quadrant as an investor. So learning how to leverage all of that out for sure. So now, where can people find more about me? You can reach out to me at passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com. That's a little subpage on the passiveinvesting.com website. But the cool thing is I got some free goodies for you there, as well as you can schedule time with me if you want to just talk about real estate or talk about passive investing. And that's the best way they can reach me, actually.
I love it. Thank you, Whitney. Let's go to our round of insights. All right, Whitney, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
I'm stalling because there's so many of them. Like, which one? I think really, I think I just like told the story about like the failure, right? And I think it's a mindset thing. It's a mindset trigger. So that's the failure, right? I get triggered on like that thing that the property manager can do. I can do better, and I'll save myself $600, when really the whole point is I should put the onus back on them to find better terms and remove myself from the equation. And I think this is where a lot of business owners, doesn't matter what business you're in, real estate, tech, whatever, they when you transition from your own operator into a business owner, you've got to take that operator cap off. You can ask questions, you can interrogate reality, but you got to step back and let other people do the work.
Oh, great point there. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Ooh, if you're own single family, small multifamilies, Stasa is like my favorite. That's how I manage all my assets. And so it's kind of like a bookkeeping, but also portfolio analysis tool.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, hands down, is the one book that has had the most influence on me from a mindset perspective, but also an execution perspective. So it really kind of taps into how does mindset and execution kind of thread itself together in our daily lives.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Oh, my run. I do everything on my run in the morning. I meditate, I listen to music, I'm outside, I'm connecting in nature, but really just putting that oxygen mask on first, taking care of my own health and wellness. And, just really, just sets me up for success. I can also kind of replay what my schedule is going to be and what I have to tackle throughout the day. So kind of like that visioning that athletes do. I really kind of manifest the top 3 things that I want to achieve that day and how they relate to my goals, because I think it's so easy to get busy, but it's not as simple to stay effective, right? So doing those things, moving the rocks, so to speak, that are going to get you to your goals.
Give me your number one insight for investing.
Those 4 pillars. I think that when I learned about those 4 pillars of real estate, and actually just investing in general, they just apply really well to investing in real estate and investing in business. And to recap, invest for capital preservation, cash flow, equity. Okay, so that can come in the form of appreciation, forced appreciation, say like a rehab, or natural tenant pay down, and then looking for tax benefits. Those 4 pillars are the key wealth generators in any portfolio.
I love it. And Whitney, I know you were in the Colorado market. Are you still in Colorado?
Yeah, we're in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay. All right, Boulder, Colorado. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Ooh, I know there's so much good food around here. There's 5-star restaurants, I don't know how many star Michelin. My favorite is McDevitt Tacos right down the street. They have just the most eclectic tacos. And you can, I don't know. Call me simple. I don't know. I'm always thrilled every time we go there.
All right. Sounds like a good choice there. Whitney, great information. I enjoyed talking to you today. And a couple of things. You talked about those 4 pillars of investing, which I think are really key for people to understand. Cash flow, capital preservation, equity, and then the tax benefits. And then understanding like, hey, you may have those golden handcuffs. Maybe start by loosening them up a little bit before you just break them completely. But think about what are the challenges that you face and the things you want to overcome or the changes you actually want to make to your lifestyle, and then start to create an investing strategy that affords you those luxuries. And then it's talking about, again, some of the challenges that investors have, maybe going from managing your own portfolio and being so hands-on and being the decision maker to actually being able to invest passively and just seeing what that can do for your business growth and your overall investing goals. Again, for folks who want to learn more about you, I believe it was Passive Investing with Whitney.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
There you go. So we'll make sure we link to that in our show notes. Whitney, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure.